guys, Coach Kelsey here with our series on the Enneagram. Today we have another interview and today's guest is Kendyll Gebert. Kendyll, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So Kendyll, the relationship you and I have is that I had the opportunity to coach you for a year, your 5th year at Huntington University, which was an honor and a privilege. Now you also have quite the significant connection to Empowered. And yes. I'm just gonna let you explain it because there's a lot of connections. So how someone watching, what do they need to know about your connection to Empowered?
So I guess the first thing is Will and Ashlee are my aunt and uncle.
There we go.
There's a family connection there. I also played here the first year it was open, and then for the rest of my time as a high school student.
Yes.
After that, I moved on, played in college, and then I came back for a year to coach. I think I skipped a season. I stopped coaching for a little bit, and then I came back this past season and coached as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how has your experience been coaching here?
Oh, I've loved it. I've loved it. It's so organized, which is really nice.
Yes.
Other coaches are great. The athletes are great. They work hard. They show up with passion, and and then the family atmosphere is great too. Like everyone cheers each other on, supports each other, and it's a great place to be.
That's what I've always told people. My favorite thing about Empowered is the family atmosphere, and it's not just something they say. You know, it's not that we just say it's a family. It truly is, and I think you feel that when you walk into the gym, and I think it's different than other places. Yes. So I love that. And you have the literal family connection, so it probably really feels like a family every time you're here. Well, we're gonna dive into your Enneagram number today. I'm a little obsessed with the Enneagram, and you are a 4, the Individualist or the Romantic. Which name do you like better?
I don't even know. Probably the Individualist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna rock with the Individualist today. So we'll dive in. So the basic description of a type 4 is sensitive, withdrawn, expressive, dramatic, self-focused, temperamental. I would add to that very deeply in touch with their emotions and able to see the beauty in the world. Now you tell me, how would you describe yourself, or do you feel like that's accurate?
Honestly, that pinpoints me. That's how I knew I was a 4, is because I just looked at that and I was like, whoa, that's me, holy cow. I would kind of take out, I can be withdrawn, but I'm not always.
Yeah.
I like my time.
I don't experience you like that.
I like myself, I like my time alone, and I like to be by myself, and I like to do things my own way.
Yep.
But I wouldn't consider myself a withdrawn person. I like to be involved. I like to be, I like to make connections with people, and I like to put myself out there. So I think that's the one thing about the 4 that I'm kind of like, maybe I don't identify with that quite as much, but everything else is spot on.
It can be almost scary.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if they're like, oh, I don't know my number, I'm like, oh, just read about the numbers, and one of them is going to be scary, how accurate it is. You're going to be like, why does it know me like that?
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point, with you not really connecting with that withdrawn part. Somebody could be a 4, there could be another person who's a 4, and those two people still look a little different. It's not that all 4s are gonna look the exact same. Everybody's gonna have their own unique expression within being that number. So very good. Well, the basic fear of a type 4 is that they would have no identity or personal significance. What's been your experience with that fear?
I can definitely relate to that. Going through, I think, playing in high school, I was always, not always, but most of the time I was this starting setter, and volleyball was my thing. Everybody knew me as the volleyball player, and that felt great. And then I went to college, and that story wasn't the same. And so it was really hard for me to find my identity. I kind of attached my identity to volleyball, and when I wasn't playing all the time, and I had to find a different role on the team, and I had to find a sort of different identity in volleyball. And that was really hard. But I kind of figured it out, and I was the motivator, and I kept energy positive, and that was, once I figured that out, it was a breeze, and it was beautiful. But that was definitely a struggle. And then also with not playing volleyball anymore, I had to figure out what who I am outside of that, and like finding a connection with God, and that was like huge for me within this past year. And like, I just, if I could say one thing to anyone, it's like, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and really like find who you are outside of the one thing that you do. And, yeah.
Well, I think that's really beautiful, and honestly a reminder that I think so many athletes need. You know, when I played sports throughout high school, and when I played college volleyball, I also found my identity in it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what am I gonna do when this is over? Because this has been such a huge part of my life. And so I just think a lot of athletes go through that. You know, what does it look like if my role's not what I have experienced in the past? What do I do when I'm not playing competitive volleyball anymore? And so I think that's really beautiful that you've gone on that journey and have come out on the other side and found your identity in other things. But gosh, it's hard when that's been such a big part of your life.
And another struggle is, I think other people view you as that volleyball player. And so then when you're not playing, you're still referred to as like the volleyball player. Like, I'm at a new job now, and everybody's figured out that like, oh, she played volleyball in college, and so they're still like, oh, she plays volleyball. She like, I'm always referred to as like the volleyball player. And I don't know how to like be like, that's not all I am.
Right, there is more. You're like, I've gone through this process, this journey. Like, let me tell you, there's more to me than this. And you know, somebody just asked me the other day, they were just like, tell me about yourself. And I kind of had this moment where I just like paused and was like, what do I start with? But you know, the first thing out of my mouth was, I'm a volleyball coach. And I thought, like I just kind of tucked that away in the back of my mind, because I was like, I need to come back to that later. Like, why was that the first thing out of my mouth? And so anywho, it definitely is a process. But you're right, when other people then view you by that too, or identify you by that, makes it even harder, because you're like, I'm trying to make that separation. So I feel you with that. Well, the basic desire, you know, on the opposite side of the fear for a 4 is to find themselves and their significance. Why would you say that's important to you?
Oh gosh. I think that ties in with something we're going to talk about a little bit later. It kind of is like, I want to reach my potential. I want to be good at whatever I'm doing. And so like finding that, like, where am I going to be most significant? Where am I going to have the biggest impact? Where am I going to be of utmost service to the people around me? And like, that's really, really huge to me, is like, how can I be like of the, essentially, exactly what I just said, of the utmost service to the people around me. Like, that's huge to me. And I find that to be significant. And so that's what I'm constantly striving for every day, is where can I place myself so I can be of service to those around me.
And I think that's beautiful that transcends into, just like you said, relationships. You know, it's I want to be significant in the way that I am able to be present and support other people, which I think is really beautiful. Well, knowing that, you know, we know what your basic fear is, we know what your basic desire is, I'm going to read a list of key motivators for a type 4, and we're just going to see that how that lands with you, okay? We're going to see if you relate or not, okay? So here's the list. Key motivations of a 4. They want to express themselves in their individuality, to create and surround themselves with beauty, to maintain certain moods and feelings, to withdraw to protect their self-image, to take care of emotional needs before attending to anything else, and to attract a rescuer. So I know that's 6 things I just listed, but how does that list land? Like, what comes up in you?
Gosh, if you don't mind, I would like to
please,
look at them.
please peek.
Okay, so the first one, expressing myself and my individuality. Like, I've always found this desire to be a little bit different from everyone else. Like, I know we've talked about this before, but like, if there's something like trendy or mainstream, like, I want to find a way to be just like a little bit different than that. Like, I know why it's trendy, because it is something probably beautiful or functional or whatever, but I want to find a way to be a little bit different, you know? So that's how I would express myself in my own individuality.
I love that.
The creating and surrounding myself with beauty kind of ties into maintaining certain moods and feelings. So when I'm surrounded by beauty, it's very relaxing to me, or something that I find beautiful is like very relaxing to me. And so maintaining that like the peace and the serenity. Like that is where I go to achieve that. Is like I need like my space to be beautiful. And I need like, if I'm like going out for the day or going to work, like I need to like feel like I look put together, and like I need to feel beautiful, and like that's like, those kind of tie in together. And then the withdrawing and taking care of emotional needs, like that really fits together for me as well. Like when I'm not feeling emotionally secure, or like, or if I'm feeling a little off or shaky, rocky, I tend to like withdraw, and I kind of focus on myself. And that is really hard for me because of the fact that I want to be of service to people. It's hard for me to do that if I'm withdrawing into myself. And so I need to constantly remind myself of that and work on that. And then attracting a rescuer, that one, I don't know. I mean, I think I look to other people. I don't even know. I mean, that one I'm not like super in touch with. I don't.
That one doesn't seem like it's jumping out at you.
Not necessarily, but I bet other people in my life could probably be like, oh yeah, she does that. I don't know. But
and I think where that's coming from is kind of saying like, oh, in the midst of maybe this heavy emotional state, kind of looking for someone to help come be in that with them, to help kind of pull them out, I think is where that's going. But that's okay if you don't connect with it.
I do very much connect with it after you just said that. Oh my goodness, the story I was literally just talking about before we started this is how I was just overwhelmed with things in life, and I like called my mom up and I'm like, help, I need help, like somebody help me. And that's just like spot on to a T. Like if I'm struggling with something, I look outside of myself. I look for other people to kind of like, whether it's distract me from it or give me encouraging words, like I look for that. And over this past year, now that I've grown my relationship with God, it's been, prayer has been especially important to me. So
we can go to the ultimate rescuer anytime we need to. So very good. Thank you for sharing that. Now I get to talk about the fun part, your strengths. Your strengths as a and look at you, you're just sitting up a little taller. Here they are. The ability to connect deeply with their emotions, sensitivity to and understanding of other people's feelings, a general awareness of their own growth areas, imaginative and creative deep thinking, and being consistently and authentically themselves. I want to know how that list lands with you, but I just have to say from my experience of you, I'm just like, yes. Like, I think you embody, personally, I think you embody all of these strengths. I'm like, yes, that is how I experience Kendyll. But how does that list land with you, and what would you consider your greatest strength?
I would completely agree with you. Like, I hear that and I'm like, yeah. And those, sometimes I see those strengths as a little bit of weaknesses. Like I see that like connecting with others and really like, I kind of take on everyone else's emotions. Like I can just feel what they're feeling like so easily. And sometimes that is hard for me to like kind of distinguish between like my feelings and their feelings. And so that can be hard for me, but it's definitely a strength, especially I'm aspiring to be a sports psychologist. I want to work with student athletes. I want to help them to thrive not only on the court but off the court. And I think that's going to be extremely helpful. My ability to do that. And then like deep thinking and being aware of my areas of growth, like I love that about myself. Like that's probably my favorite strength that I have. It's just, I can like go over my day and be like, oh, I didn't handle that situation as well as I could have. Like I need to work on that. I need to be better about that tomorrow. And like being able to do that is just like, I'm getting like chills. Like I love being able to do that. And I just like I want to help other people be able to do that with themselves and like just become a better person every day. Like, it just feels so great.
Well, both of those things, honestly, as you're saying them, I'm like, those are like two superpowers right there. You know, to be able to connect with and be in tune with what somebody else is feeling. And like you said, especially as an aspiring sports psychologist, I feel like you're already a step ahead of the game. It's like, you know, the fact that you can already be in tune with what someone's feeling before they even describe all of it. I think that is a superpower. And then also being aware of how you want to grow. You know, not everybody has that awareness. Not everybody can look at their day and say, here's what I think I could have done better. And thank goodness I get an opportunity to do that tomorrow. So you should get chills because those are two superpowers that you have as a 4, which I think is awesome. Well, next we're going to tiptoe into the areas of growth, which areas of growth, that's what I call it, not weaknesses.
Which I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. I like that. I mean, you just said you're aware. It's one of your superpowers, so you're cool with this part. I don't maybe need to preface it as much with you. So the areas of growth for a 4, withdrawing in times of difficulty, fixating on what they don't have, the tendency to focus too much on themselves, or reacting strongly and emotionally to hardship. Out of those 4, which one would you say is the most challenging for you?
I think reacting strongly and emotionally in times of hardship. I think whether it's hardship or like times of celebration, either way, like my emotions are either super high or super low. Like it's hard for me to like just be in the middle there, and that's why like I strive for that like peace, serenity, like calm, because my emotions are just on either end of the spectrum. And so I'd say that's probably my biggest one, is when things get hard, I feel it hard. Yes. And then that's what causes me then to withdraw. Yeah. And that's like really tough for me, and something I definitely need to work on. Definitely an area of growth. Yeah.
Well, I think it's good that you're pointing out that it's both ends of the spectrum on the strong emotion. So yes, there might be this strong emotional reaction to a hardship, but just like you said, it's also the same with, getting excited for something. Like you're gonna feel that, and you're gonna feel that big. And so it's just interesting that it's both ends of the spectrum, but it makes sense why you're kind of searching for that peace and serenity, like to give yourself like just a little bit of a break of like, let's just hang out in the middle for a little bit.
Exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. Well, one of my favorite things about the Enneagram is that each number reflects the character of God in some way. All the numbers do, but it's in unique, different ways. And so for a 4, that's God's creativity in depth. And when I read that, I just was like, oh my goodness, yes, like that is Kendyll, because from my experience of getting to coach you, but to get to know your heart as well, yes, there is this creativity that transcends just, I think sometimes people hear creativity and think artistic. And yes, I can see that in you in that way, but it goes beyond that. It's creativity in ideas. It's creativity in how you approach people. And I've witnessed that, and that's been such an honor. And then when we talk about this depth, I'm just like, oh my goodness, yes. Like I remember sitting and talking with you at a restaurant before this season, and I just remember leaving thinking, oh my gosh, like I just feel like we connected on such a deep level, and that's before we even knew each other very well. And I just think it's so beautiful that you can meet people where they're at emotionally, no matter where that is. Because for some people, emotions can be scary. Somebody can have a strong emotional reaction and it's like, ooh, no thanks, I'm gonna step back from that. But I feel like you lean into that in a beautiful way that makes you very safe then. People know they can bring anything to you. So I just think that's so beautiful, and I think you completely embody that, and it's been really cool to watch that. Yes, of course.
That means a lot to me.
Of course. Well, we're gonna move on to talking about where a type 4 points in stress and in growth. So when a type 4 is stressed, they take on the negative characteristics of a 2, which is the helper. So what this would look like is repressing their own needs, becoming excessively dependent on others, craving attention, and desiring reassurance and affirmation from loved ones. So my question is, what are your signs that you might be pointing to a 2 in stress? What would you start to see in yourself?
I think that brings back that like attracting a rescuer that we talked about before, is like, I find it hard if I'm going through something to just like figure it out. Like I need other people's advice. Like I need to ask like at least 3 other people before I make a decision. And that is like the hardest thing for me, because I get so easily overwhelmed, and like I said, those emotions are so big that sometimes I can't like sort it out and figure my way through that. That gets really hard, and I do tend to like become dependent on other people. And that is like really tough for me. Like I lean on my friends and my family more than anything else. And like I need those people. It would be extremely hard for me to like move across the country and have nobody with me. So I mean, I like have always wanted to like go away for college and like go be in a different state or whatnot, but I think that there was a reason that I didn't get too far away from home.
Yes, gotta have that support system with you.
Absolutely.
Your people.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of that, when a 4 is growing and in a secure place, they start to take on the positive characteristics of a 1, which is the reformer or the perfectionist. So this would look like embracing impartiality, order and values, learning what they value in themselves, others, and the world, and then unapologetically aligning with those values. So a lot of values talk here, but how do you know that you're starting to take on those positive characteristics of a 1, or maybe what do you like about it is a good way to say that.
I think how do I know is I just feel confident in who I am. And I don't really, I tend to like, maybe someone might have something not so positive to say about the way I did something, but I just think like, well, I did the best I could with what I've got, and I'm proud of myself for sticking to who I am, and I didn't waver, and like that's how I know that I'm like in a good spot is when I feel confident and I can make decisions. And like being a manager at a restaurant, I need to have that confidence, and I need to be able to like make a decision on the fly. And like once that's going smoothly, I'm just like, oh, yes, like this feels good. This feels really good. Yeah, and I appreciate that, especially being unapologetically myself. Like that, I find that to be so easy. Yeah. And I know that doesn't come true for like a lot of people. Right. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And being myself, that's something I've heard my whole life is just like Kendyll is herself. Like, and I love that. I love that, whether it's like the positive or the negative, I just am always who I am. And and why would you want to be anything different? Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you know, if that's how God's created you, like, why would you want to be anything different than unapologetically yourself? But you're right, like that's a hard thing for people, you know, to find this security and confidence in that. And so I think it's really neat that you've been able to tap into that, which is really cool. Well, each number has a wing number. And so it's basically like this secondary number where someone's gonna take on some additional traits of one of the numbers on either side of them. So for a 4, you would either be a wing 3, which is the achiever, or a wing 5, which is the investigator. Do you happen to know what your wing number is, or is that a journey you're still on? I think just like reading about each one, I would have to say the achiever. Yeah. I've seen that being an athlete and being super competitive, and then not only like on the court, but in school or in whatever else I do, like I kind of want to be the best. Like, and when I'm not, that's a little hard, but that's something that I've learned to be okay with. Like, not everybody's going to be the absolute best at everything, and that's okay. But I can be the best at being me. Like we just talked about, like I can feel comfortable with myself and look in the mirror and be proud of what I did that day. And that's something that I've been on a journey with recently. But I would definitely say the achiever. I can see that in myself, and I always want to like go for like the top. I don't know. I just want to be the best at whatever I do, which in my head I'm like, well, who doesn't? But yeah. But you know, it's really, as you were talking, I literally thought of this moment that I had with you in the gym where it had been a hard day, and I said, hey, what do you need from practice today? And I don't know if you remember this, but what you said to me was, I need to compete. I need there to be competition today. And I remember looking at the practice plan and being like, well, good news, there's already some in here. And better news, like we'll insert some more. And I think that says a lot maybe about that being your wing. It's like when you were in a place where maybe the day was hard, it's like what I need right now is an opportunity to compete and to achieve. And so that makes a lot of sense that you'd be a wing 3. Well, very good. Well, as we're starting to wrap up here, I want to ask a couple questions. The first thing is, what do you wish people understood more about a 4? I want to say that like just because we're in touch with our emotions and we have big emotions, it doesn't mean that we're super sensitive. And I don't think that means that people need to tiptoe around us. Yes. I think it actually means the opposite. I think it means that you should, if you're around a 4, like let your emotions flow and see where that takes that 4. Yeah. Allow them to help you in those emotions and to sit beside you in those emotions, because I think that's where 4s really like shine is when there's big emotions and when there's, and like even if it's tough, like I think, at least speaking for myself, like I accept those tough conversations and like I'm welcoming to those. Like I want to grow and I want to be able to learn from conversations. So if there's something that's like bothering you about your relationship with a 4, take that to them. And see where it goes. And I just think that's like couldn't be confusing sometimes. It's like just because there's big emotions doesn't mean that you need to like shy away from that and like tiptoe around a 4. It means like, no, take that to them, invite them into your space.
That's so beautiful. That's so good, Kendyll. You know, that it's actually the opposite of what maybe someone would naturally respond with. Because you're right, 4s are gonna lean into that. You know, they like the emotions. So why hide that from them? Like you said, that's where you're gonna thrive. How can someone best love and support you as a 4?
Oh gosh, I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's okay. That's a journey.
I would say just being there. Like this is like not with the Enneagram, but like my love language is quality time. And I feel like that kind of ties in with being a 4 is like wanting to like spend time with other people and like leaning on other people. Like that's like a big thing for me, and I kind of see that in like the characteristics of a 4. And so I think just being there and asking them in the moment, like, do you need advice? Do you need me to listen, or do you need me to distract you? And I think that's like kind of the biggest thing is like, and allow them to like talk through their feelings. And like without trying to like fix it right away. I think that's like a big thing for me is like, sometimes I just need to talk it out and I will figure it out just by talking about it, but I need someone to listen.
I remember talking to a friend in college, and I left the conversation and I just was like, thank you so much, like just talking with you, like you just, it was so much wisdom, and like now I feel so much better, I know what I want to go do. And I remember her looking at me and being like, Kelsey, I don't really think I said much. Like I think you just kind of talked yourself through it, but I'm like, but you don't understand like how creating that space is helpful, you know? And if you feel safe, and that's a gift you're giving to people to bring their emotions to you and that be okay. So it's like, man, that's such a good gift then to give to a 4. It is, hey, let me create this space for you where your emotions are okay. You know, we're not gonna try to fix it. We're not gonna try to change it. You can just be, and that be okay. You know, so I think it's a beautiful thing. Bonus question. I got a bonus question because I really like this question. What is something that you have done or you do, or something about you where someone would be like, oh my goodness, that is such a like poster child 4 thing for you to do, if that makes sense? It could be something big, it could be something little, but something where people could look at you and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, like Kendyll is a 4.
Goodness. That's a good question.
Like I said, it could be silly, it could be big, it could be small.
I have one huge thing in my head.
What is it?
And I'm like, don't know if I should talk about it, but I would say, I don't know. Just, I got sober in the past year, and I think like that's a huge thing. And I think that really speaks to me as a 4. It's like finding my areas of growth, and like that's somewhere where I was like, I need to fix this. And so I got to work, and I got sober, and now every day, like I look at, like I said before, like I look at the past day and I think like, what could I do better? And I think like that, just talking about that is like, everything we talked about kind of is stuff that I've like kind of learned about myself in the past year, and like going through this journey. And I don't know, I just think that's a 4 thing. I don't know, I guess there's probably people who aren't 4s who got sober, but like in my opinion,
been your experience, you know, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I mean, that's such a powerful part of your story and your experience, and you know, that is something that you deserve every day to be so proud of yourself for. The journey you've been on, how far you've come, how you've shared that with people. You know, that's not something you just have kept to yourself. Like the fact that you allow God to use that to impact other people. I just think sharing our story is one of the most beautiful things we can do from a ministry standpoint. And so just to have watched you do that in the past year, I think that causes people to feel even more connected to you.
Thank you.
So I just appreciate that so much in you, and I appreciate you being willing to share it.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, I think that's like, if it happened and I didn't share it, like, then what's the purpose of it happening?
Yes.
I want people to learn from what I've done and
yes.
what I'm continuing to do, and I'd like to take people along with me in that journey. And
absolutely. Well, it's been an honor to be any part of that journey, to be any part of your life. You are such a gift. And I just thank you so much for being here today, for being vulnerable, for giving us an inside look at what a 4 is like. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Of course. And be sure to join us next time for another Enneagram interview.